for your birthday. Watching football on the first date. Shopper with too many secrets. I know what it's like to be him. Promise it won't make the world end. If you say you don't want a girlfriend, I'll give you something to believe in. Loving in a land of freedom. White shirt, denim jeans, looking like Springsteen. You can crack a cold one and put your hands all over me. It's your right. Live your life. Gay Americana. Gay Americana. You can be anything you wanna. Gay Americana. Americana. Everyone deserves to know ya, no matter what your mama told ya. And I believe that even Jesus wouldn't wanna come in between us. Fireworks in your eyes like the 4th of July. We can make a new sweet homemade apple pie. Tastes just right. Baby, give it a try. Gay Americana. Gay Americana. You can be anything you wanna. Gay Americana. Yeah, we're gonna put stars and stripes on a rainbow flag, and we'll fight for love, cause it's all we have. We were born this way, and I can't change that. No, it won't go back. Gay Americana. Gay Americana. You can be anything you wanna. Gay Americana. Yeah, this is Gay Americana. Be just who you wanna. Gay Americana. Gay Americana. Americana.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me in the locker room today. I'm Alan Locher. Philadelphia native and singer-songwriter Cole Redding is here to discuss his new single, which you just heard, Gay Americana, his road to sobriety, and being mentored by the one and only Jon Bon Jovi. Cole is in his Gay Americana era, combining classic American pop culture with a fresh LGBTQ spirit. Cole's 4th single aims to be an anthem for inclusivity. Please help me welcome to the locker room for the first time, Cole Redding. Hey, Cole.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. Of course. What a beautiful intro. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, I think, I have told you about a month ago, my neighbor Christine sent me this text. I just heard an interview with this artist on Z100. He is inspiring and his song is awesome. And here we are. She shared Gay Americana with my husband and I, and we immediately fell in love with it.
Thank you, Christine. Props to Christine.
Props to Christine. Yeah, I listened to the interview with Elvis Duran. I love that Elvis seems to be a big supporter of yours.
He is. And that was such an honor because, so I'm like a Philly boy. I live in LA now. But to that neck of the woods, I grew up listening to Elvis. So to get asked to do that, and it's specifically during this month to be able to speak about my journey and how that relates to the song. The song is really feels like the celebration on the other side of what a lot of people go through to me. And it was just a very sweet, surreal moment.
That's awesome. Yeah, I grew up too. I am a Jersey boy, so Elvis has been around a lot. He's been around. Yeah. You say you wanted to write the song you needed to hear as a 13-year-old. What do you mean? And tell us the idea behind Gay Americana.
And so for me, Gay Americana was a culmination of all of the struggles I've had in my life, and then the beauty again on the other side of those struggles. I think at 13, I wish I saw someone in culture who looked like me, who talked like me, who basically just said, "You're perfect the way you are. You're totally normal. This is fine." And I think you get so lost in the sauce when you're a kid, which I get. Culture throws things at you, your family throw things at you, but really it's like this inside job that you have to work on to come to an acceptance to go, okay, I was created like this, and it may be difficult for X amount of time, but there's a whole world out there, and there's so many people out there who are going to fall in love with me for who I am naturally. And this
As
was
Lady Gaga would say, we were born this way.
hell yes. It's in that's in the bridge as well. I did pop that lyric for the bridge. And for me, that was a really inspiring, like Born This Way was such a great representation where it was like, it was this big pop anthem that everyone could chew into, but like, you knew who it was for. Um,
Mhm.
and to me, I was like, I want to make Born This Way like Springsteen would make it, with like big thrashing drums and a sax solo. And
Well, you and I are years apart. I could be your dad, but you know, there wasn't Born This Way and there wasn't Gay Americana when I was coming out. So, I get that idea. I mean,
yeah,
I wish, I wish there was Glee when I was growing up, like there.
I think at best, and I think like when I was really little, Will and Grace was on. And to me, it was like this great, and there was nothing distilled, there was nothing like diluted about it or whatever, but it was a great packaged way for like audience, like the general public who might not have a gay uncle, who might not have a gay brother, whatever, to look at it and go, oh, it's just like me. That's funny. And it's like I think sometimes like there's been so much progress in such a short amount of time, which is amazing over the last 5, 10, whatever years. But sometimes like you just need to like shine a good example of something. And people, the vast majority of people come to it in their own time.
It is. That's a great way of putting it because it's really just like having a neighbor who might be Jewish or
Yeah.
Black or Indian or Muslim. If we just get to know each other and experience
Yeah.
other beings.
I think also, I really believe this, and at some point, humans and life might crush my spirit, but I'm very like, I have an optimism in the sense that everything is a reaction to an action. And if you do the right thing over time and you shine an example, you move in next door, whatever, and someone's unsure, a kid comes out to their parents. There are examples, obviously, of people who are hateful and immovable. But I do think most people don't like just want to hate. I think most people are like winnables. They're like gettables. You just have to, everyone comes to things in their own time. I wish someone didn't have to move next door or someone's kid didn't need to move out.
Mhm.
But there are plenty of examples of personal friends of mine whose parents were not cool in the beginning, which is hard for me to wrap my head around because my parents were great when I came out. But who just, it took them their own journey. And sometimes you have to give a little grace for everybody to find that.
You really do. You have to give grace to everybody because
Yeah.
for a mom and a dad, as well as the person coming out, it is a journey for all parties involved, and possibly brothers and sisters in that as well.
I've also thought this is kind of a segue, but as painful as it is, like being a gay person who carries that with you and holds onto that and suppresses it, it's also brand new information to somebody else. And again, I am very sort of open-minded and malleable. I roll with the punches. I really don't expect anything from anyone or anything on the planet. So whatever I get, I just take new, you know what I mean? But parents like have, or anyone, they think of you in a certain way. This is something we always do in society. You want to like, this is who this person is. And it's new information. So to me, again, at best, I would be, if I could be the person over the course of my career who was the guiding hand that Will and Grace was, that would be like my art and my humanity will have been well served.
I love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And even this little show for me has been that, I think, to some people, because you and I are just having a conversation. So we're just talking,
Yeah.
and if people are listening, they learn, they see both of us comfortable in our own skin. So Gay Americana came out on May 31st.
Yeah.
I know there has been some negative reaction, which you have taken on,
Sure.
which I'm glad. I mean, you have to,
Yeah.
I mean, you put this out. It means a lot to you, but overall, what has the reaction been to the song?
It's pretty like TikTok specifically. There's like a little community there. Ironically, I will say a lot of these social media companies, when you put gay, when you put queer, when you put things are suppressed, like heavily suppressed, community guideline violations, very weird. But when it gets to ears, when it gets to eyes, it's been received with like a lot of love. And the one thing specifically to me, which I was trying to do, was like there's so much great LGBTQ representation. A lot of it's a little edgier, a lot of it's very dance driven, very sexualized, whatever. This was like wholesome to me, again, wholesome, classic, the way a George Michael would do it. He touches the fire, but like your parents fuck with it, your grandparents fuck with it, your kid, and that's because I feel just like a lot of duality as a person, and that's very natural. It's the most natural thing for me to just throw it down the center. Not to be like non-offensive, I just think that's a cool type of important representation.
So interesting you mentioned that about TikTok, because I don't post often.
Sure.
I'm not good, but I posted yesterday congratulating fellow travelers, the Matt Bomer and Jonathan Bailey
Oh, sure.
series,
Great.
because they got an Emmy nomination. And I
Yeah.
looked at my post today, and it was blocked for the sound. And
Really? And what was the sound?
I have to go back and look. I mean, it was congratulating. I used to work with Matt
Sure.
Bomer on Guiding Light, and so I was congratulating them on a great LGBTQ series.
So you're telling me the video did not, but the sound was taken down?
The sound was taken down. I resubmitted it today, but I'm going to go listen to the video, because I do have the video, because I recorded it.
No, it suppresses. But I will say again, it has been really loving when it gets to ears and eyes. Like really, like people sending me very sweet messages, and also saying again, like I've had a lot of people say, which I do think is just like, we're in very divisive times. I'd like to do something that feels like it gives everyone a little bit of something. And I've had a lot of people say, like, you never see like gay and American in the same thing, which is, it is this very like July 4th, like apple pie, super American Bruce Springsteen sounding thing. And I think there's a cool duality. It reminds me, when I wrote the record, I was like, I want to tell this coming out story, this sweet, fragile coming out story, in like a big thrashing barbecue, dad in a truck way. And it's, it just, I like the duality of it. And I will say though, to the negativity, there's just, I don't even
There's
take
just
it.
haters. There's just,
and it's, if I'm being totally honest, I really like myself. I really like my art. If I've done something or said something, I've checked it out in my brain a million times over that it has good intentions. And if people really want to just like bash strangers online, that's a shocking development for me, because like I've never just like commented something mean to somebody. I have I have a life. And if I had a problem, I would just say it to someone's face. It's very odd, but so that is like not important.
Good. You need to. You
Yeah.
need to. You
in a good way. I've learned.
I admire your outlook. So
Yeah.
and we'll continue talking about that outlook.
Yes.
About a month, I think, before Gay Americana, you also released It Won't Be Me.
Yeah.
Beautiful lyrics. Will you tell
Thanks.
people what that song is about?
Yeah, actually, so really what it's about, because it sounds like an ex, my best friend since I was 5 years old, who is my soulmate on the planet, twin flame. Everyone always assumed we'd be together from 5 years old on. We were never, but we spent every minute of every day. If you met him, you had already met me. It is a cosmic thing. In my lifetime, on my deathbed, I'll probably go, that was the most remarkable thing to happen in my life, to meet someone like that. This is still my best friend. And he got in a relationship, which is fine. We weren't in a relationship, but to express how unique it was,
Oh,
he did.
you're gonna make me cry because
Oh,
I
he didn't tell me for a couple months because he said to our mutual best friend, it felt like I was cheating on him. Because and I think I know I'm getting emotional. For like 6 months, the two of us for the first time in our life had just division because there was unspoken whatever it was. And I think it was both of us re-regulating what our lives were like when we weren't the priority. Since 5, I had someone other than my mother who made me their ultimate priority at all the times. And he's still dating this person. I love them. We have this beautiful clean threesome. That's not what I'm talking about, but like we work great as a three
yeah,
situation. A lot of
yeah.
fun. But I was trying to figure out when it happened, and it was at a pivotal moment in my life where like I got really sick with like type 1 diabetes, and I was just and was rethinking everything I did work wise, and everything crashed at one time. But I realized it was so painful with him, not because someone was sharing a bed with him, not because someone was spending time with him, because I stopped at a red light and I wrote down, he gets your birthday, your Christmas, and then New Year's Eve, and every invite you're +1. Now it won't be me. And I think it was like, what's
Wow.
my future? Like I planned my life around this person. I thought they would come to events. I thought we would go on vacations. Sometimes I don't have like a big family, so I would go to his for holidays. And the
I
song,
think we can all relate to that,
yeah,
Cole. I think we all. I'm sure there's been moments when friends early on in even my coming out journey would start dating somebody and feeling left behind.
yeah. And I think that's also like, it's not talked about a lot, but like, as we say that, I think about the complications of like how complicated it is sometimes growing up gay, because you have like things that are wholesome, normal crushes on people, but there's a no go, like there's a no go, and it's not that person's fault. It's just the way life worked out. And this, we both happen to be gay. I mean, this was such a unique situation, and I'm sure people are listening who have had this, but like sometimes it's hard to figure out what type of love it is because it's so deep and there's so much history and we were literally like, are we like Bill and Hillary respect and history love? Are we like fiery love? And you know what? It turns out I literally got into therapy because of this. And she was like, "You're like an identical twin. You're like an and that and you and you're in and you. It's hard to extract, you from one
Being
another."
separated. Yeah, being
Yeah,
separated. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I do think though on the other side, the only thing that like really healed it, and it was the day after I wrote the song, I was like in a Whole Foods parking lot listening to the demo. It's just like just was a devastating song. And I remember talking to her on the phone. As I said, we had like this weird sort of like unspoken division that we'd never had. And I like walked around the Whole Foods hot bar for like 55 minutes. Because I saw the phone call and I just kept walking and we talked everything through. And he's like, and we got to a point where it was like, okay, our whole life, our love, let's look at Will and Grace. It is a non-traditional situation. We can't find, to explain our relationship, we can't find a lot of TV shows about it or songs about it or whatever, which means that those rules don't apply to what we have. We have what we have. So let's talk about it. And he's like, I can't believe you thought that someone would be prioritized over you. That's just never in the scheme of our life going to happen. And I feel the same way about him. And I think that was like whoever we're with is going to have an understanding that everything that person tells them is going to only travel to one of us and it'll never get beyond that. But he can't experience something without me experiencing it and vice versa.
I love that. I
It's
love
and
that.
it's actually, we found a deeply healthy version of it.
Is he out west or back
No,
east?
it's hard. He's a doctor now.
Oh,
And we have very different schedules, and it's really, I mean, we just send like gushy, long texts like, I want to die without you. Jesus Christ, it's been so long, blah, blah, blah. And then, but it's very hard to connect. I mean, we're constantly in touch.
yeah.
We're just like, I miss you. How could this possibly be what our life is? Can you believe we go 2 weeks without talking on the phone? It's a gift though, to have like a soulmate like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Elvis had mentioned that you had come on a few years ago when you released the song called Father, Father.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heavy
So that
song. I didn't hear it because I
it's
couldn't
gone.
find it.
It's
How
gone.
come?
You know what? So speaking of Bon Jovi, who is like a
Yeah.
great mentor of mine, this guy, Obie O'Brien, greatest man I've ever known in my entire life, really like a father figure. I met them after I got sober or before I got sober, but started working with them after I got sober and was writing. I think I was just like basically making peace with my past, writing songs. And my dad around the time had met a new woman, very quickly become like a born again Christian. And it was like tight, 4 months, no dad. It was like just a very quick thing. Thankfully, as an outlet, as a writer, once I get it on paper and hear it back, I'm not saying I've healed everything, but I get pretty far. As crazy as that sounds, I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay, well, there it is. I can make peace with it.
A lot of people say, whether it's musically or not, like writing
Mhm.
in a journal or gratitude,
Yeah,
putting it down on paper helps people heal,
I
no
just
matter
think
what format.
I think some way it's because you have a mirror back to it. You're a little less like you get to experience it from like another point of view, maybe. Um, but John, at that point, we all sort of worked on something and built a very specific character together. This was 2018. Um, I looked like McCartney. My hair was very dark. I had bangs. I wore a military jacket, but Beatle boots. It was just like and the music was beautiful. But I think I was really young, and I deferred a lot, and I was really malleable, and I built stories about my life, but I felt like at some point I was wearing a stranger's clothes and not telling the stories how I would tell them. And that was like 2018. I did the Elvis thing. That was incredible. I got to talk about the relationship with my father, which I no longer have, which is complicated and unfortunately probably a deeply relatable situation for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um, and that took me though in 2019 is when I started getting sick, and just had to change. Everything fell apart, and I had to rebuild everything. And sometimes, honestly, that's just the greatest gift life can give you, because sometimes you can't get whether it's a relationship, whatever. Sometimes you want to like untether yourself from something. You can't stay where you are, but for whatever reason, you're not able to jump. And sometimes life steps in, and it's like, psych, sit in a hospital bed for a month, and you're gonna have to think this one through. And that was as much as diabetes is a pain in my ass. That was a great gift for me.
Wow. Could you believe you were being mentored by Jon Bon Jovi?
No, it's pretty crazy. He is wildly good people. He's so insanely smart, disgustingly smart. And he's been like a great champion, genuinely. And I think for me to watch an organization run at that level, like really young, I just like be in the background of arenas or studio or whatever. If you're not an idiot, you learn a lot. Like if you just keep your eyes and ears open, like you are really a sponge to it. And I realize now so much of the way I carry myself, so much of the way I think of things or look at things is like that. Let's call them college years.
Wow. I think I've seen him a number of times, but I should have gotten the picture of me with my long hair at a concert way before
Oh,
you were born in New Jersey. But I think I watched one of his shows from the stage because
wow.
somebody was connected.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
Yeah. They're just like, when you start to think about careers and how many people have done it at this level for 40 years, you can't even really use two hands. So,
Right.
and that's not a coincidence. That's someone really talented and also so smart and driven. So smart and so driven. So he's a real like reference point for me in everything I do.
When did music first enter your world?
I would say it was always the thing. It was never not the thing. So when I was a little kid, it was the comfort blanket. I remember thinking like, I wish everyone could experience music like when maybe every kid who loves music thinks that. But like the intensity when I would like listen to it, the intensity that I felt for songs and artists and performances. Um,
And who
but I
were
don't,
those that you were listening to?
you know what? It's really like very diverse. Like my favorite singer ever is like Aretha. I
Mm.
would go, it's diverse enough to go from like the Beatles to Aretha to George Michael to Britney Spears to Eminem to I don't know. It's very sort of expensive. It's always was pop though. I mean, I will say like it was always I've never been like cool enough to like go off center. It was always like a very like
Yeah,
big
yeah.
act at the time. But I think probably 12 was the first time I was on stage and then I was in bands all throughout high school, but I started drinking at like right before I turned 13. And honestly, 13 to like 20, 21 was just gone. I mean, it's just that, I mean,
Yeah.
I know I lived them and I know other people lived them as well. And I take accountability. I checked myself into rehab at like 20 and a half and lived and
Yeah,
recovered.
I want what we will come to that in a second.
Yeah. And
What was the first song you wrote? Do you remember? Or how old were
but I
you?
actually do. So probably like 10, 11, 12.
Wow.
I'm not going to say this person is because one of my best friends or oldest friends in the world, his dad, who I have a lovely relationship with, but he just was he like didn't mean it, but he was so homophobic. He would say just ignorant shit all the time. And when you were gay and young and surprising, you don't forget any of them. I mean, I remember everything that was said by anyone in a classroom, in the back of a van, whatever it was. So
I hear you because
yeah,
my dad said things and my dad was not that person, but my
yep,
dad, was an older generation,
it
a
was
Holocaust survivor.
totally.
So,
And I think again, there are like levels to things. This is not a hateful human being. I really love this man,
right.
and I'm gay,
Yeah.
and treats me amazing when I see him. But growing up, it was just like that thing. Like I remember my parents having a conversation. This is so off topic, but going like, my dad, funny enough, who I don't have a relationship with, would push back because I remember him saying at one point, "Well, what if Mike was like a dancer or whatever?" He's like, "I kick him out of the house," and it's like, okay, that's just crazy. It's crazy thinking. Do I think now that he's aged a little bit, do I think he still believes that stuff? No.
No.
But again, I don't think it was a hateful heart. I think some people don't think that hard. They don't live with their emotions that hard. They just get culturally formed, and that's who they are until they're not. But I remember
Well, you're
writing.
right, but it's not even. They don't think about what the fact that you and I are speaking about this. They don't understand the impact of those words coming out of their mouth
It's so true.
because
It's so true.
because they had a huge impact on you. I heard the same thing,
Oh yeah, yeah.
being kicked.
You know, it's funny. You don't realize until you remember something, and you go, "Okay, I'm not dumb enough to think that of all the things I forget in my life, all the things filed under homophobic shit when I was a teenager, nothing got by me." I mean, I just remember all of them. I remember like this is crazy. I'm just thinking of this now. Being in a 7th grade class, I would read. I forget what book it was, but it was something where like maybe the F word was used or something. But I remember reading ahead chapters, counting kids in a row, going like, I don't want to read this chapter. Am I this chapter? Do I have to go to the bathroom to get skipped? To think that hard in 7th grade is too much. Not and to be fair to a lot of people who are let's talk about my friend's dad. I don't think he ever had to think like that. So I just think some people don't realize the impact of their words. But I used to long story short, I used to write songs at this person that no one would ever hear prior to being in a band, but I would write poems and have melodies I didn't play. But I would definitely write songs to him, like most of them, to this one person. Which is no one's ever asked me this, so I've never even talked about it. But then I would say the first song where like I went into a studio and cut it, I was probably 15. And it's called Loaded Gun. It's really dark. I mean, I had a very dark, I know I don't seem like it now, but it's not a great experience from like 12 to
Yeah,
20.
you started drinking really early, and a lot of it being ashamed of being gay, and
Oh, yeah. I maintain, I think, like, I knew at 12, my dad was an alcoholic. He got sober when I was like 2. His grandfather was an alcoholic. My mom's side has a bunch of addiction. It's not alcohol, but it's really no difference. I think the gene is just strong there. So I think that was pretty preordained that I would not be able to sustain that. But I think if not for being gay, there's almost no way that I would have driven myself into rehab by 20. I think it was just immense shame meeting addiction at the same time, and it was just like a tornado that just got out of control. And it's hard to remember when you feel really healed and really grateful and like very open and thankful for the way you are. It's hard to remember being like in that physical terror.
Wow. Do you have a favorite Bon Jovi song?
Do you know it's good? If you saw this, he'd be very proud because I'm gonna give like niche picks. There's an original song he's got from the 90s, like a Jon Bon Jovi song called Janie, Won't You Take Your Love to Town that I really like. And then there's also a song called This Ain't a Love Song. Then I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong. This ain't a love song. Do you know that? It's great.
I don't, but I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna go look for both after this.
And It's My Life is. I mean, I will say because I grew like my first experience was John with It's My, because I was listening to it on pop radio. I didn't really have context for him prior to It's My Life, which what a gift about. And I still think this stands. A song can change everything. One song, not 10 good songs, one great song that happens to the stars align. You know, that was only halfway into his career, not even. And I think it probably was a huge launching pad.
Well, that's like living on a prayer for me, you know.
Totally.
Because I am older. And then, you know, to have that as part of my childhood and then to have it be a huge moment at my wedding with my husband and family and friends all dancing up a storm, to, you know, is a memory I will never forget. What is next for you after Gay Americana? Do you have?
Okay, so I have so much music. I do know what's coming when. There are 2 different songs that we're looking for a feature on one of them, which is this like, it's definitely the best song we have thus far. It just to me, to my list, like pop ears, it just has like hit written all over it. It's great. And it's written about, really, I went home to my mentor's place. It's a song called Knows My Name. And the premise similar to Cheers, which we literally were like, what is it? It's that the world's so chaotic now and everyone moves to different places and you're doing it for the right reasons. And you may love where you are, but everyone inside is looking for that one feeling just once in a while to like touch down from where they are from, to like whether, and just be in a bar full of faces that are familiar to you, even if you don't like the people. There's that home feeling that everyone's looking for. And then the other one is a very hot. It's so cool. It's like, imagine like if Troye Sivan did That Don't Impress Me Much by Shania Twain. They're both very, and it's sick. It's very cool. So I think for us, we're going to ride out Gay Americana. I really believe in this record, like a lot. And I do think
it is catchy as can be.
Thanks. Thank you. I really believe in this record. So we're going to work it for the summer as best we can. And we've had a lot of like really cool press looks. I have a lot of people reaching out, and we'll peddle it on socials and do all the things. But I think
next summer you need to be singing it at Pride.
No, so okay, yes, that is. We were a little late on the prize. We've reached out to everyone, but apparently that stuff gets booked like in January, literally in January. So there, thankfully, not all the prides have happened because I'm having a lot of conversations now, which is great.
Yeah.
But I look at this particular record, Gay Americana, as like every June as I'm in my career, just like Mariah brings back All I Want for Christmas. Hello. Until someone writes. It just is, and I say this
correct. Absolutely.
I don't think there's a lot of really great, like colloquial feeling pop, whatever songs that drive home the message as well. I'm not saying that because I think I'm the greatest thing ever. I think the record is really special.
Did you ever go listen to All American Boy that I told you about?
Oh, it's great. It's great. Yes, it's great.
Yeah,
and I think that's a great example. Yeah.
We don't have songs that speak to us, really.
And I thought about this a lot too, and this goes back a couple of years. But when I saw "Call Me by Your Name" in the theaters, did you see "Call Me by Your Name"?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I saw it 3 times. It was like an emotional hangover. I don't know. Speaking of Rob and I, it was so okay. Here's a funny tidbit. Rob and I have totally different tastes. Rob is like
the doctor.
Yep. Totally different taste. So we sat and watched that movie, and like, first of all, we just like silently cried for the first time we watched it. We just like, everyone was gone in the theater. We're just like separately crying, but we watched the whole movie on different sides of the screen because all I could do was watch Armie Hammer and all I could do was watch Timothée Chalamet. And we thought if there was an island full of guys and that's it, and it's all, we'll never pick the same ones. This is fine. We could never fight with someone. We don't even. So that was, but we saw it 3 times. But being in the theater, and I remember looking around and it was like married couples and young people, old people, whatever. And I thought, I have probably seen 300 movies, all of us, where a man and a woman fall in love. A man and a woman, and it's beautiful. And everyone's excited about it. Imagine going to every straight person in that theater and going, how many movies have you watched? Imagine if not one of them. Never. You saw you and your wife, or you saw you and your husband, not one time. That, and I just remember getting chills thinking like, that is fucking amazing. That's progress. That's progress.
Yeah, absolutely. But they've had movies for decades highlighting.
Of course. Yeah.
I
think that's where, like, I do think in general, like the conversation around, like LGBTQ representation and rights is like, there's always more work to do, but like also how great, like there's progress. Like it's amazing how much progress has been made. And I think young people, and like specifically, I think since I was very young, I have like let's call it like old soul, young spirit. But like normally I'd watch movies and I'd always agree with the elder in the movie because I'd always go, the young person's missing it. They haven't lived long enough. They're not seeing the full picture. They're in their emotional component, whatever. But I get in not like arguments or conversations a lot where I'm like, there are so many people who fought for decades and decades and decades and decades in a slow way to get us to where we are, where then it was a rocket ship of progress. So like always like slow your horses here. Like things take time, and just acknowledge how beautiful it is that that major outlets I can sit and talk to about a song that continues to say gay Americana, you can do anything you want to, and nobody won't touch it. Even 10 years ago when I was a kid, that would not have, you would have gotten like shoved to like the corners of the media.
Well, I hope it stays in that direction.
Do you know what? I have to believe it will. I think legislatively, I really hope. I know we're talking about the same thing, but
yes.
legislatively,
I hope my marriage remains.
Yeah, and but I think that I really believe that the public sentiment in this country, especially like the youth, I'm not saying we have all the power. Yes, there are people who make laws. I don't see certain things going away quietly.
Correct.
I just,
just like the Stonewall riots, I do think that if they tried to do that
and I certainly don't want that.
No, at this stage, I think we would have a lot more vocal people, because also, you think of the fact that they even had the Stonewall riots when so many people were still in the closet. We're not at a place where people are in the closet. I mean, yes, of course there are people in the closet, but the amount of people out of the closet is so much more than.
Yeah. And it really, even honestly, like, okay, like I'm a millennial, but even Gen Z, like because I don't feel like I was totally raised by the internet. I feel like I like the internet came in and my adolescence came in at the same time, whatever, but I didn't have it at like 5. I do think there's a generation of people who are like, this is so stupid. I can't even believe we're going to have a conversation over someone's sexuality. It went from being like, I feel like when I was a kid, It wasn't cool, but it was like, it could be talked about. It wasn't like a freak show.
Right.
It wasn't the 50s. We're talking about, or the 80s, whatever. So I do think, though, the next generation, it was like, it's almost a non-factor. Like, it's just not an interesting
Yeah, my
thing.
best girlfriend from high school, we're 80s kids, and she has kids who, are in like freshman and sophomore year of college. But as they were graduating high school, she was saying, yeah, like they talk about their gay friends, their trans friends, and there's no issue
I
whatsoever.
feel like in a short way, it would be like 10 years ago, if you said like to someone, so and so's gay, it would be like, really? Oh my God, really? Oh, cool. Okay, whatever. Now it's like, yeah, okay. Like,
Right. They just go about their day. They'll just turn and yeah.
Great.
Well,
it's good to know.
Because I know you're so open, you say you took your first drink at around 12, and really from that moment, the Cole at 12 just changed drastically. Do you know what drove you to that first drink?
Shame.
Really?
I didn't want to be who I was, and I didn't want to walk in that reality. And I took one drink and I went, oh, well, now I don't care about anything. I've forgotten everything. And then I think the insidious thing is you go, well, how do I get that back again? Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. And then over time,
numbing yourself, basically.
Total numbing. And then the crazy thing is, it goes from, you're not casually drinking and escaping. You're always drinking. And the periods of panic and rarity are when you're sober, withdrawing, waiting to escape again. Because the moment you get sober, it's like all of your reality sets in and you're like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? I'm no different, and I've destroyed my life. And that was addiction for me.
And from that first drink to taking yourself to rehab, what was life? How would you describe Cole's life during those years?
Lonely and chaotic. I mean, I think, to my friends and family and everyone's credit, who I give so much credit to the people around me, because they had enough sense to basically like not enable, like nobody, like my friends who were 20 years old, who were doing coke and Molly and everything at college, as I was just I was doing everything, but really just drinking, had enough sense to say like, okay, yeah, I know we're doing this, but like our lives are like, we're okay. Like we can't facilitate you dying anymore. We're just not going to.
They're having productive lives.
Yeah. We're not going to play a part in watching you just slowly die. And I think I will say, to addiction specifically, like, enabling is dangerous, because I know it seems like it's out of love, but at some point an addict's going to take as much as you allow them to take, because that is the nature of addiction. So every time someone pull a rug, it just got me closer to going, what option do I have? My entire life has fallen to like, I have no supporters here. I don't know where to go sleep tonight, whatever. And thankfully, I think I know I made the right choice, but it makes you make a choice.
Right.
Encourages you to make a choice.
You mentioned your dad, addiction on his side. Did you understand that at 12? Did you know all of that?
Yeah. Because I was warned of it. Like when my parents, I think it was like 13, they knew I took my first drink, and it was like, that was the whole conversation. You have a lineage here. Please don't, just be cognizant of whatever. So, but you're 13. You're 13.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I totally, I have friends who've had it. I have had my own issues with alcohol. I understand completely. Yeah. And that's why I think listening to the Rooted Recovery, which I think I would like to reach out to Patrick, because I think you
should. He's really great.
Yeah. Really great. But just your openness is going to help numerous people, wherever you speak about it, because you speak about it very intelligently and honestly, which really is the most important thing.
Yeah.
In
I think going forward too, just like media, whatever, I do think everyone, it's so funny, even in music, like Gen Z is looking for, like the next generation is looking for authenticity. Just be authentic. We smell the bullshit. We don't want it. Like the craziest thing you look at, even just because you could look at music, or as there's a million reasons why certain music's popular in an era of culture or not. The most popular artists right now, or like the freshest artists, are the ones who are just like with a guitar telling their truth. I never would have thought that 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but everyone's looking for people to just be themselves and tell the truth. And I will say, this is, I think like the thing that I will not compromise about myself is like, I will always say what it is that I think and feel, because I know what small betrayals mean. I know what it means to bite your tongue. I know what it means to say something you really don't mean, but you might make people feel better or whatever. It might make people think that you're cool. All of those little things just get you away from your truest self. So I refuse to like utter a word
Yeah.
or do anything that isn't 100% aligned with who I know I am, and how those chips fall is fine.
But I also think you hid yourself for so long
So
that,
true.
that is what hurt you for those almost 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So I think,
I make the joke that
understand why.
Yeah. I got sober and I like turned the faucet on, and I was like, let me just let the dirty water run out. We're fine. And then that shit's been going for a lot of years. It's just running strong. And I've realized I would just, that's okay, because I sleep really well at night, and I really love who I have in my life. And
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, we're back. And I think though that's a great, I talked to a lot of my friends, like, I'm not that interested in how I'm perceived. I know it sounds really weird, not in a selfish way. If someone I love comes up to me and says, you're doing something to hurt me, that will kill me, and I'll change but I'm not that interested in how I'm perceived. I just would rather like say what I want to say, and just be 100% authentic. And again, however that's responded to, that's kind of none of my business. I feel like my job is to just like be my fullest self.
Be Cole Redding.
Yeah.
Yeah. You described that you turned to panic drinking.
Mm.
What?
I think panic, because like it's insidious, because it's like, okay, here's what it is. You get drunk, you black out, you do awful things. So you wake up and you're like, where the hell's my mom's car? I'm going to just use mine specifically. Where the hell's my mom's car? Oh my God, who did I call? And then the first thing you think is, this has to stop. Where's my next drink? So then I would rummage through the house to find, did I stash a water bottle of vodka in my teddy bear? Is it in a blanket in my closet? Is there's some weed in a tennis ball? And so it's literally just like, it's the dumbest thing. It's like just a hamster. It's like a hamster, just like you make a mess and you go, oh my God, and you freak out. You don't clean up the mess. You just get back on the wheel and make another mess, and the mess just continues to pile up. But your only focus is, I just don't want to look at that mess. I don't want to feel that mess, until it all comes crashing down, or I chose to make it come crashing down.
And some of that you said was, because you had a girlfriend at the time too, right?
Yeah, that was a lot of anxiety.
And yeah, I mean, right, we are hiding behind that.
Yeah. And I think the craziest thing is, when you really think of that, just imagine an alternate reality where you're in high school, and like I'm just thinking of my roommates. Okay, my lovely roommates, Mikey and Wyatt, who are both straight. Imagining them having to pretend to date and like try to like be sexually aroused by a guy in high, like to keep up. That's just like a psychotic thought. But it lets you know that, like, again, until nobody has those thoughts anymore, there's work to be done. because those thoughts are not innate. If we could wipe ourselves of cultural condition, if we could forget everything and someone was falling in love with the opposite sex, you wouldn't know to think it was wrong. There's just been a whole era of telling people that that's weird or not okay or whatever. So that just needs to, progress over time. Hopefully at some point, nobody needs to come out.
Wouldn't that
Come out
be
to what?
lovely?
Yeah. Come out to
Well,
what?
I have a nephew who's gay. His biggest peeve when he finally told me was, straight people don't have to do this.
So
They
true.
don't have to come out. I don't feel like I have to, announce to the world who I am.
Which, depending on why you're saying it or how you feel, that's actually, if someone is really made peace with it, that's the healthiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like I carried so much shame with it. Like I remember the first time I came out, which is a weird spiritual, like almost involuntary experience. It's like someone kicked me on the back and was like, okay, get the words out. And then I just sat in silence. It was in rehab for 45 minutes. And I was like, the fuck did I just say?
So you said it, that was the first time in rehab?
To like a therapist there. And to her credit, for 45 minutes, we sat in silence in this room because I'm telling you, I heard them. I will say, funny enough, the three most really by far most profound resets in my life were all completely inexplicable. I don't know how else to describe them. They just were spiritual, call them whatever the hell you want to call them, but they were not normal events where, like, I'm telling you, I wasn't ready to say those words. I didn't say them like I'm saying them now. I heard them in the room. I heard the walls speak back at me, essentially, because I heard the words come out. And then I was quiet for 45 minutes because I was like, I can't put that back in the jar. I don't.
Listening to your interview on with Patrick, what was fascinating is the shame, and I felt it as well. I mean, I remember, my mother asked me, so that was like an amazing, very blessed to have had that. But it still took me like 10 years to tell my best girlfriend, and the night I was telling her was torment for me. But
yeah.
What like you even said, like, you come from a great family, like you didn't expect anyone to have a negative reaction. Like it's such a it upsets me that it was so, that our culture or whatever it is, that that pain and that shame you were feeling was so deep. But it really, and I think for all of us, even mine, like worried that they're not going to be my friends. What was it rooted in? Because you had that love.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It is culture. It's just it's what has been in the zeitgeist for way too long. It's the things that your friend's dad says in the van that he doesn't mean to say some shit that's going to stick with you forever and tell you that what you are is bizarre or wrong, but it's just the wrong signaling.
And for many people, religion, church,
huge.
Going to hell.
And you don't want to take that away from anyone, but like, there's no way to say the dogma is good. Having a faith in something, if it makes you feel better as a human being, if it makes you treat your family better, amazing. I want everyone to believe whatever it is they believe. But certainly there's no way to say, like, again, the dogma of like making people feel less than. I just feel like if there is a God, this is not what he's trying to do. I can't imagine. I come from a very just a religious whatever background, and I give my mom a lot of credit because my mom, I remember her saying, like, I'm pretty sure if there is a God, if there is a master of the universe, he just wants you to be the most yourself you can, and then just treat people well. And those two things feed themselves, because if you find out who you are, you really love, there is an amplifying effect to that. You'll be happier, you'll treat people better. And that's probably the end of the story there. That's probably all that a creator would want for humanity and its humans.
If only we could all live that way.
Well, you know what? If we'll get there's gotta, it will never be perfect because people are people. But what is it, like the arc of history? Wait, the arc of the universe works. There's something with moral and arc and history, but just saying, like, historically, if you look over time, almost everything has gotten more um, more humane, and people have thought deeper about things, and things have been, like a lot of archaic shit has been etched away. So you have to imagine in another 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, hopefully it continues that way.
What took you, I think you attempted to get sober a number of times. What was the straw that drove you to that door? And if there is a piece of advice, by chance, somebody who is having a drink while we're talking right now, what would you say to them?
If you aren't happy with your reality, no matter what the circumstances are, and there's one thing that is the trunk of the tree that all of the rotten branches grow from, if you want a different life, if you love the people you're upsetting, at some point, you have to just do what seems like the impossible thing and cut out the common denominator of what is causing all of the problems. It's not easy, but nobody ever, ever has gotten sober and said, terrible decision. Nobody.
Sure.
That's never happened. Nobody's ever gotten sober who had a problem and said, my family can't stand me anymore, and I'm not, as productive. I don't feel as good about my self as a person. So I think if you love yourself enough, it's not even about other people, actually, funny enough at all. If you love yourself enough, that's the moment where you go, I don't know how to get beyond this, but I can't live this way anymore. So I think I looked at the fork in the road at that time and went, I don't know how the fuck I'm not going to drink. I can't do this anymore. So I have a very limited set of options. And I know that on the other side of that, if I was totally objective and not an addict, that there's only one good way to do this. So I should probably just try to make that one. So, and I mean, I also think I got sober, and a big thing for me was like, if I could get 24 hours totally sober, go to bed, wake up the next day, not drink once in a 24-hour period, I was like, I can do it forever. I know that sounds psychotic. I know that sounds naive, but that was my barometer going in. If I can just literally one day, that means that tomorrow's no different than this day, and the next day is no different than tomorrow. And you just push it off, push it off, push it off until your new reality becomes, I don't do that anymore. And you get just as used to your reality of sobriety as you did with addiction. So yeah, that was like my thought process.
Michael just commented, Cole, I am proud that you received treatment quickly. I waited until my late 40s to acknowledge my sexuality.
Wow. Well, congrats, Michael. Honestly, that's brave. To me, the way I look at that, that's braver than that, or as brave as the alternative. Because you could look at me. I got sober and came out at 20, and I either couldn't take the pain as long as you did, you maybe, or I always joke with like addiction, like I don't know if I was so strong to cut it off, or I just couldn't take that amount of pain for an extended amount of time. So to go through your whole life and go, you know what? I have a whole second chapter here, and I refuse to live it like this last one, no matter how difficult it is. You had more people that you had to tell. You had more. So good for you. That's incredible.
I love that you said that. Michael needed to hear that. You talked about your mom not recognizing you. Mom must be so incredibly proud of you today.
It's good. It's good. I think I like constantly, this is weird, but a lot of my actions, I think about like, am I acting like the son my mom knows best? I think about that a lot. And that's in work, that's in whatever. When I'm negative, when I'm pessimistic, if I'm being self-absorbed, am I acting like the son that my mom knows is in there? That sweet little boy that she knows is in there. And because she knows me best. So I think she is very proud. And you know what? which I don't ask for this credit, but she's like, you know what, we had so much dysfunction in all of our family sort of webs going back, and you were the first person ever. My dad got sober, but he didn't, not to slight anything, but he, from what I was told, he stopped drinking. I went in to rehab and broke every bone down and was like, fuck this. I got to figure this out. I'm not living the rest of my life like this. So she's like, you were the first person who basically like got me to wake up and got me to look at my own childhood and got me to look at my parents and why their parents were made that way. And we have a very healthy, like, respectful relationship now.
Beautiful. That's
Yeah,
really
she's the best.
beautiful.
And that is, I never actually said that out loud, but that's a good, if you have a great relationship with your mother, that's a great barometer of like, am I proud of my actions? Not just me, but like my mother, if she watched this, would she be like, that's not my son. My son doesn't do that.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
you to hear what you were like from 12 to 20. I don't know who that person was and how that person articulated himself, but this Cole Redding today is incredibly open, honest, and authentic, and I think it's incredible. I kind of want to end because I loved what you talk about. What fills your cup? Do you remember what you said?
I do. Well, I think it was like going around and talking to strangers and being very curious. That is really, I love people. I love people. It's like a running joke between my friends. I'm just so full of curiosity about everyone's journey. Like I look at people in the world and go, I've taken none of the same steps they have. The different people raised me, different people are in their small town. They have different dreams. They have whatever. And I just think that we are in like, okay, great. We're more globally connected than ever. We all have our phones. But polling, whatever, if you talk to anyone, most people feel more disconnected than ever. So the only way to me to just break that is to just like be curious with the actual people around you in a grocery store, when you're walking on the street. If you love someone's shoes, tell them you love their shoe. Just say it, because you have no idea what kind of day they're having. So just say, I literally just say whatever's on my mind. It makes me look a little nuts sometimes. I'm not that concerned because it never doesn't play. Someone is always like, oh my God, thank you so much. Nobody said that. So great. It's like I get my cup filled. You look at somebody in the eyes, you have a nice interaction. And also there are times where like you can say one thing and maybe it's an icebreaker and you end up having this random 10-minute conversation with someone who you don't know. You never have to see them again. You just gave each other what you were looking for. That's it. It doesn't need to be the longest relationship of all time. It doesn't need to be transactional. You both just shared in this beautiful human moment. You feel more connected and you walk away with your cup filled. It's so hippie, but that's my, yeah.
I think it's beautiful, but I do think you really a hello. I like the shoes. Whatever is on your mind really can change that person's day as much as your own.
I think, and but it's normally, it's not just that like people are selfish and don't want to say it. I think there's a lot of people just acting out of insecurity going, I don't want to, here's where it's like really like self-acceptance comes down. I don't want to be weird. I don't care if I'm weird. I don't give a shit. I really don't even, because to be honest, if somebody doesn't take it well, I meant it so well. So I don't care. They're not paying my bills. I didn't say anything hateful to hurt them. I'm happy. I would literally rather just get it. Here's how I think about anything. It like bubbles up. I want to say it. So I'm either going to slam it back down and live with it and nobody hears it, or like shoot my shot. And if they don't like it, it's fine because I got it off my chest. So they walk on with their day and I'm like, you did the right thing. Regardless of the results, you did the right thing. It's so my mom. It's disgusting. It's really, I will say, it's so funny.
That's funny. I love when you can recognize those things.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus. I am really, because it's the first time I really realized that actually a co-writer on Gay Americana, she's so great. And I said, she finally met my mom and she was like, God, it was really nice to like finally like talk to her and whatever. And you talk about her so much. And I said, what was she like? And she said, it was like meeting you again. And I was like, okay.
So what, they just spoke without you?
Yeah, she just know because she was at a show I was playing, and she was just like talking to her. But she, I cannot take full credit for my philosophy. I was clearly raised by someone, even if I didn't act like it when I was young. I was raised by someone with a more is merrier, people are good philosophy.
That's incredible. Cole, you're incredible. Your mom's incredible. I hope you told
Yes.
her about this, because I know another person I
Yeah, yeah.
interviewed. I told a friend, I interviewed somebody recently, and he got shit on Facebook because he didn't tell his mother.
Oh, this is so funny. Yeah, what? It is great. It's a not everyone has everyone has a different relationship with the parent,
Yeah.
but I do think if you have a good relationship with your mother, that's a very you can't touch that.
Cole, I'm gonna stay here when
Yes,
I'm gonna sign off. I sit on the board of Gay Sons and Mothers, and I want to talk to you about that.
would love.
So,
Okay, great.
okay. We're
All
going
right,
to talk about that. Cole, thank you. This was amazing. You're amazing.
thank you so
I'll
much.
come back here in just a second.
Sure.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. Thank you to Cole Redding for stopping by to discuss his music and sharing his sobriety journey with all of you. Please check out Gay Americana. The link is down below. Please join me next Wednesday, July 24th, when Emmy-nominated actress and spirit guide Jessica Jimenez Perry, along with singer and actress Lisa Donahue, join me live. Jessica played Catalina on Guiding Light, and Lisa plays a nurse on General Hospital. These two actresses and friends will stop by to talk about their friendship and those roles. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And don't forget to turn on the notifications. I said that. And if you like to stream audio versions, just search The Locker Room on your favorite podcast app. Have a great weekend. And as always, everybody, stay safe.